My friends, ladies and gentlemen, everyone listening, what if the most important thing I'll ever build isn't something I do alone? I've spent years chasing, moving fast, building things that looked like success from the outside. And somewhere in that momentum, I stopped asking the questions that actually matter. I stopped asking, who am I becoming? Who am I becoming for? What does it mean to have everything if there's no one to witness it, really witness it, not just applaud it? This isn't a love story. Not yet. This is what comes before the story. This is the confession I need to make before I meet her, or while I'm meeting her, or after I've already met her and didn't know it was her. I wrote this for the woman who'll be my wife, because I want her to know something before she chooses me. I know now that love isn't the detour from my purpose. Love is the engine, trust is the fuel, and presence, actual, unguarded presence, is the only currency that ever actually matters. The question isn't whether you're listening. The question is, will you let me be honest? I used to believe that vulnerability was weakness, that if I showed you my doubts, my fears, the nights I lay awake wondering if any of it mattered, you'd leave. You'd find someone more certain, someone who had it figured out. So I built a version of myself that looked unshakable, confident, always moving forward. But here's what I learned. That version of me was a stranger to myself. I couldn't actually see you because I was too busy managing the image of me. I couldn't hear what you were really saying because I was listening for validation. I couldn't sit with you in silence because silence felt like failure. Everything had to be productive. Everything had to be progress. Even love had to be a metric. One day I realized the people I admired most weren't the ones with the biggest accomplishments. They were the ones who could sit across from another person and actually be there, present, unguarded, willing to not know what comes next. That's when I understood what vulnerability actually is. It's not weakness, it's clarity. It's the willingness to let someone see you as you actually are. Not the version you think they want, not the version you think you should be, but the real, unfinished, still becoming version of you. And then, this is the hard part, trusting that they'll stay anyway. I'm writing this for you because I want to practice. I want to say the things I'm afraid to say. I want to name the fears before they calcify into silence. Here's one. I'm afraid that if I slow down, everything will fall apart. That the momentum is the only thing holding the structure together. That if I pause to be with you, truly with you, not half present while checking my phone or thinking about the next project, I'll lose the thread of who I am. And here's the truth underneath that fear. Maybe I need to lose that thread. Maybe the version of me that's always running is the version that was always lost anyway. I've watched good men stay married to their work instead of their wives. I've seen brilliant women choose ambition over connection, and then realize, too late, that they'd built an empire and lived in it alone. I don't want that. Not anymore. Not with you. So this is my confession. I'm choosing to be different. Not different for you, but different with you. There's a distinction. One is performance. The other is presence. Presence means that when you're talking, I'm actually listening. Not planning my response. Not thinking about the next meeting. Not half present while I'm fully here. It means I ask you questions not because I'm trying to seem interested, but because I'm genuinely curious about the texture of your inner life. What made you laugh as a child? What scares you most? What do you think about in the shower? What's a moment when you felt completely alone, even in a room full of people? These details matter. They're not decoration. They're the whole thing. I used to think intimacy was about grand gestures, romantic dinners, perfect words. But intimacy is smaller and bigger than that. It's noticing that you take your tea the same way every morning, and it means something that I notice. It's remembering that you flinch a little when someone raises their voice, and understanding that there's a story there, and giving you space to tell it if you want to. It's knowing that Tuesday mornings are hard for you, and showing up on Tuesday mornings a little softer. These are the things that build trust, not promises, not plans, not the future we'll build together, though that matters too, but the actual, daily choice to see you, to remember you, to honor the small, specific ways that you are you. Here's what I know now. A mirror works because it doesn't judge. It just reflects. It says, here's what I see. And in being truly seen, we become more real, more ourselves, more capable of love. I want to be that for you. Not perfect, not all-knowing, just present, just honest, just willing to keep choosing you, even on the days when choosing myself would be easier. The thing about this kind of commitment is that it has nothing to do with forever. It has to do with now. It has to do with this moment, and then the next one, and then the next one. Building a life isn't about one grand decision. It's about 1,000 small decisions. To stay present, to be honest, to choose connection even when it's harder than choosing distance. I'm not asking you to be perfect either. I'm asking you to be real. Bring your doubts, bring your anger, bring your ambition and your fears, and your weird sense of humor and the parts of you that you're still figuring out. That's where intimacy actually lives. Not in the polished parts, but in the honest ones. This is what I'm learning. Love isn't about finding someone who completes you. It's about finding someone who makes you want to become more fully yourself. Someone who sees your potential and your current reality and loves both. Someone who doesn't try to fix you, but who challenges you to grow because they believe you're worth growing for. And I believe that about you. Even now. Even before I fully know you. Because I know that any woman who would listen to a man confess his fears, who would take the risk of being truly seen, that woman is already brave. That woman is already real. So here's my promise. I will do the work. I will choose presence over productivity, at least with you. I will ask the small questions. I will remember the details. I will be honest about my doubts and my dreams. I will show up on Tuesday mornings. I will be the mirror that reflects back your best self, while also witnessing your struggle. And I'll ask you to do the same. Not because love is a transaction, but because intimacy is built by two people who both choose to be honest, to be vulnerable, to stay present, even when it's uncomfortable. That's the real foundation. Not chemistry, not shared interests, not even shared values, though those help. The foundation is two people who agree to see each other, really see each other, and to keep choosing that day after day. This is what I'm writing toward. This is what I believe now. And this is what I'm asking you to believe too. There's a loneliness that lives inside success. You probably know it. It's the feeling of standing on top of something you built, looking around and realizing there's no one there to share the view. Or worse, there are people there, but they're not really seeing you. They're seeing the achievement. They're seeing the status. They're seeing the version of you that fits into their narrative about who you should be. I've lived that loneliness. I know its texture. It tastes like accomplishment mixed with ash. The cost of getting it wrong, of choosing achievement over connection, of building empires instead of relationships, isn't that you fail. It's that you succeed and discover that success tastes like nothing when you eat it alone. I've watched this happen. I've seen it happen to people I respect. A man who built a company from nothing, who has everything money can buy, but who eats dinner alone because he's forgotten how to be present with his family. A woman who reached the top of her field, who's respected and admired, but who hasn't had a real conversation with another human being in years. They're not unhappy because they're unsuccessful. They're unhappy because they've traded connection for conquest. And the saddest part? They can't even articulate what's missing. Because they've spent so long proving they don't need anyone that they've actually convinced themselves it's true. I don't want to be that person. I don't want to wake up one day and realize I've built something impressive, but lived something empty. Here's what I'm learning about the relationship between ambition and love. They're not opposites, but they do compete for the same real estate, your presence, your attention, your willingness to be vulnerable. You can't fake presence. You can't multitask your way through intimacy. You can't build real connection while you're also building your brand. Something has to give. And if you're not intentional about it, the thing that gives is always the relationship. Because the relationship is the only thing that doesn't demand immediate results. The relationship is the only thing that can wait. And so we make it wait. We say, just one more project. Just until I hit this milestone. Just until things calm down. But things never calm down. The next project is always waiting. The next milestone is always there. And eventually the person you love stops waiting and walks away. Or worse, they stay. But they've gone silent. They've learned not to expect your presence. They've learned to be okay with the crumbs of your attention. And you've both settled into a kind of comfortable numbness where you're together, but not actually connected. You're partners in logistics, not lovers. You're co-parents, not soulmates. You're people who share a life, but not a vision. That's what I'm trying to avoid. That's what this whole confession is about. Because here's the thing I didn't understand until recently. Presence is a skill. It's not something you're born with. It's something you practice. And like any skill, you get worse at it if you don't use it. You can spend so many years in meetings, in your own head, solving problems, building things, that when you finally sit down across from someone you love, you don't know how to actually be there anymore. Your mind is still running. Your phone is still buzzing. Your attention is still divided. And that person can feel it. They can feel that they're not actually the priority, that there's something you're trying to fit in around the edges of your real life. And no amount of grand gestures or expensive dinners can make up for that baseline message. You're not important enough for my full attention. I'm writing this because I want to break that pattern before it even starts. I want to be the kind of man who chooses presence, not because I finally made it and can afford to slow down, but because I've understood that presence is what making it means. Success without connection is just accumulation. It's gathering things, money, status, achievements, and then wondering why you still feel empty. Real success is building something that lasts and having someone to build it with. Someone who knows you. Someone who chooses you. Someone who sees your struggle and stays anyway. That's the kind of success I want. That's the kind of man I want to be. And it requires sacrifice, not of your dreams or your ambition, but of the illusion that you can have it all without choosing. You have to choose. Every single day, you have to choose. You have to choose presence over that extra hour of work. You have to choose the conversation over the closed door. You have to choose admitting you don't know, over pretending you have it figured out. These choices are harder than they sound, because our culture tells us that the person who sacrifices the most for their work is the most admirable. The person who's always on, always grinding, always thinking about the next move. That person is a hero. That person is ambitious. That person is going places. But the person who leaves the meeting early because their partner needs them, the person who turns off their phone during dinner, the person who admits, I don't know, but I want to figure it out with you, that person is weak. That person is settling. That person is letting love get in the way of their potential. That's the narrative we're sold. And it's a lie. Real strength is the willingness to be vulnerable with another person. Real ambition is building something that includes another human being in its vision. Real success is knowing that someone has seen all of you, your brilliance and your failure, your dreams and your doubts, and they still choose to be there. I'm learning this slowly, and I'm writing it down now so that when the moment comes, when I meet you, or when I'm already with you, I won't forget. I won't slip back into the old pattern of assuming that love is something I can get to later. I won't treat you like a project I'll finish when I have more time. Here's what silence costs. It costs everything. It costs the small moments that actually build intimacy. It costs the vulnerability that actually builds trust. It costs the daily practice of being present that actually builds love. And here's what I'm committing to instead. I'm committing to breaking the silence. I'm committing to saying the things that are hard to say. I'm committing to asking the questions that matter. I'm committing to being the person who shows up fully, even when it's inconvenient. Especially when it's inconvenient. Because that's when it actually means something. The opposite of love isn't hate. It's indifference. It's going through the motions. It's being in the same room, but living in separate worlds. And I've seen too many people live that way. I've seen too many relationships die slowly, not because of betrayal or conflict, but because of simple, daily neglect. I don't want that for us. I want something different. Something where we're both all in, both willing to risk being seen, both committed to presence, not just promises. That's what I'm writing toward. That's what I'm asking you to believe is possible. That's the kind of love I'm choosing to build. Not someday, when things are perfect or when I finally arrived, but now, starting now, with whoever you are. I want to know what you think about when you're alone. Not the polished version of your thoughts, the one you'd share on a podcast or in a therapy session. I want to know the messy, contradictory, half-formed thoughts that only exist in the privacy of your own mind. What do you wonder about? What makes you angry? What do you daydream about when nobody's watching? These details matter because they're how I actually get to know you. Not your resume, not your accomplishments, not the story you tell about yourself at parties, but the real, textured, complicated version of who you are when you're just being. I'm learning that real intimacy is built on curiosity. Not the kind of curiosity that's trying to solve you, or fix you, or understand you so I can manage you better, but the kind that's genuinely interested in you as a person. The kind that asks questions not because I need the answer, but because I want to understand how your mind works. Most people don't do this. Most people ask questions strategically. They ask questions to steer the conversation in a direction that makes them feel comfortable. They ask questions to position themselves as the interesting one. They ask questions as a transaction. I'll ask about your day if you ask about mine, and we'll both feel like we've connected even though we've barely scratched the surface. I want something different with you. I want to ask you questions that I'm genuinely curious about, even if they're weird, even if they don't lead anywhere, even if the answer changes nothing about our practical life together. I want to know. What's a moment when you felt completely yourself? What's something you've never told anyone? What do you think you'd be doing if nobody was watching and there were no consequences? These questions don't have practical value. They don't help us plan the future or solve problems, but they do something more important. They say, I see you as a full human being. Your inner life matters to me. You matter to me. And that's the foundation of trust. I've noticed something about people who are deeply loved. They seem more alive. They seem more present. They seem more willing to take risks and try new things. And I think it's because they've been truly seen by another person. Someone has looked at the real version of them and said, yes, that version, that's the one I want to know. That changes you. It makes you braver. It makes you more yourself. I want to do that for you. I want to be the person who asks the questions that nobody else asks. The person who notices the small things. The person who remembers that you're allergic to shellfish, but more importantly, remembers the story about why you're allergic. The family vacation when you were 8 and got sick and your dad carried you to the car and told you jokes the whole ride home. The person who knows that you have a specific way you like your coffee, but also knows that sometimes you're sad and the coffee is just an excuse to sit in silence for 10 minutes before the day starts. These small details are everything. They're the language of love. They're how we say, you matter. I'm paying attention. You're not invisible to me. I think about this a lot because I grew up around people who were so busy achieving that they stopped noticing each other. They were in the same house but living separate lives. And I remember thinking, even as a kid, that there was something lonely about that. Something that felt like failure, even though by all external measures they had succeeded. They had the house, they had the money, they had the status, but they didn't have each other. Not really. So I'm practicing something different. I'm practicing the art of paying attention. I'm practicing noticing the small things. I'm practicing asking questions because I'm actually curious, not because I'm trying to seem interested. And here's what I'm discovering. When you actually pay attention to someone, they become more interesting. Not because they've changed, but because you're finally seeing the full complexity of them. You're seeing not just their strengths, but also their vulnerabilities, not just their public persona, but also their private doubts, not just what they've accomplished, but also what they're still working toward. Not just who they are, but also who they're becoming. This is what makes a relationship feel alive. This is what makes it feel worth showing up for. Because you're not just with someone, you're witnessing someone. You're participating in their becoming. You're being trusted with the parts of them that are still unfinished. I want that kind of relationship. I want to be someone who notices when you're quieter than usual and asks, "What's going on in there?" I want to be someone who remembers the small details about what makes you feel safe and what makes you feel scared. I want to be someone who can sit with you in your doubt without trying to fix it or talk you out of it. I want to be someone who gets you. The thing about curiosity is that it's the opposite of judgment. When you're genuinely curious about someone, you're not comparing them to your ideal. You're not trying to change them into a different version. You're just trying to understand them. And that understanding creates safety. It creates permission for people to be exactly who they are. I think that's why so many relationships fail. People stop being curious about each other. They think they already know. They stop asking questions. They stop noticing the changes. They stop seeing each other as dynamic, evolving humans and start seeing each other as fixed, known quantities. And once that happens, the relationship becomes stale. It becomes routine. It becomes something you're doing instead of something you're choosing. I'm committing to staying curious about you. I'm committing to not assuming I know you just because we've been together for a while. I'm committing to asking the questions that might feel vulnerable to answer. I'm committing to noticing the small shifts in your mood and your energy and asking, "What's that about?" I'm committing to treating you as a person who's always becoming, never fully known, always worthy of deeper understanding. This is harder than it sounds, because curiosity requires vulnerability. It requires admitting that I don't know you. It requires being willing to be surprised by your answers. It requires letting go of the need to control the narrative and just listening to what you actually have to say. But that's the work of love. That's the daily practice that keeps a relationship alive. And here's the beautiful part. When you approach someone with genuine curiosity, they feel it. They feel seen. They feel like their inner life matters to you. And in response, they become more willing to share. They become more willing to be vulnerable. They become more willing to let you in. So I'm asking you to do the same. I'm asking you to be curious about me. I'm asking you to ask the questions that might feel silly or too personal or too vulnerable. I'm asking you to notice the small details about how I operate. I'm asking you to pay attention to what makes me come alive and what makes me shut down. I'm asking you to treat me as someone who's always becoming, never fully figured out, always worth deeper understanding. That's the covenant of curiosity. That's how we actually know each other. That's how we build something real. There's a particular kind of impatience that lives in ambitious people. It's the belief that if something is worth doing, it should happen now. That waiting is weakness. That patience is just another word for stalling. I've lived inside that impatience for so long that I almost forgot there was another way. But I'm learning something about timing. Real timing. Not the manufactured urgency that comes from capitalism and social media and the constant pressure to move faster, but the organic, natural timing that exists between two people who are actually building something together. Patience isn't passivity. It's not about accepting less or settling or pretending you don't want something. Patience is about understanding that the best things can't be rushed, that there's a rhythm to human connection, that some things need time to develop, to deepen, to become real. I think about how plants grow. You can't force a seed to bloom. You can't yell at it or threaten it or promise it rewards if it just grows faster. You have to plant it in good soil, give it water, give it light, and then you have to wait. You have to trust the process, even when nothing visible is happening, even when it looks like nothing is changing. And then one day, you don't know exactly when, but one day, something breaks through the surface, and suddenly everything starts to move. Love is like that. Real love, anyway. Not the fast kind that burns hot and then burns out, but the kind that actually lasts. The kind that builds. The kind that becomes stronger over time instead of weaker. I used to think that if you had to wait for something, it meant you weren't a priority. That if someone really wanted you, they'd make time immediately. They'd rearrange their life. They'd choose you right away. And maybe sometimes that's true. But I'm learning that real love sometimes looks like patience. Like saying, I'm interested in you, and I'm also willing to respect where you are right now. I'm willing to wait for you to be ready. I'm willing to let this unfold. This is the hardest thing for me. because my instinct is always to accelerate, to push, to make something happen, to close the deal. But with you, I'm learning that the push ruins it, that the best thing I can do is step back and give you space and time, and trust that if this is meant to be, it will be. Here's what patience actually requires. It requires faith. It requires believing that you're worth waiting for. It requires trusting that good things take time. It requires being willing to not know when. It requires sitting with uncertainty and not freaking out. Most people can't do this. Most people are so uncomfortable with uncertainty that they'd rather force a conclusion, even a bad one, than sit with not knowing. They'd rather push someone away, or push them into commitment, or push themselves into the next thing, than simply wait and see what unfolds. I'm trying to be different. I'm trying to be the kind of man who can wait, who can be interested without being pushy, who can want something without demanding it, who can care deeply while also respecting your autonomy and your timeline. This is what I mean by presence over promises. A promise is something I make about the future. I promise I'll always love you. I promise I'll never leave. I promise we'll build this together. But promises are easy. Promises are how we try to control the future. Promises are how we try to guarantee something that can never actually be guaranteed. Presence, though, presence is what I can actually do. Presence is showing up now as I am, without trying to extract commitments about tomorrow. Presence is saying, I'm here, I'm interested in you, I'm willing to do the work, and I'm also willing to wait for you to decide if that's what you want. There's something radical about that. There's something that says, I'm not trying to manipulate you into loving me. I'm not trying to rush you into commitment. I'm just going to be honest about who I am and what I want, and I'm going to give you the space to decide if that's something you want to. Most people aren't willing to do that. Most people are too afraid of rejection. They'd rather push and force and try to create certainty than risk hearing no. But I'm learning that the relationships that actually survive are the ones where both people were willing to take that risk. Both people were willing to be honest. Both people were willing to wait. And here's the thing. When you're willing to wait, you're actually more present in the waiting. You're not trying to fast forward through time. You're not thinking about the next phase. You're actually here, in this phase, noticing what's happening. And that's where the real connection happens. That's where the trust gets built. I want to know what it's like to build something slowly with you. Not in a way that's frustrating or ambiguous, but in a way that's intentional, where we both know what we're doing and why we're doing it, but we're also willing to let it unfold at a pace that feels natural, where we're not trying to skip ahead to the good parts, where we're actually present for all of it. The awkward conversations, the misunderstandings, the slow building of trust. Because that's when it becomes real. Not when everything feels perfect, not when everything is figured out, but when we've both chosen to show up anyway. When we've both chosen to be honest anyway. When we've both chosen to wait for something real instead of settling for something easy. I think about the difference between speed and urgency. Speed is about how fast you move. Urgency is about how important something feels. And I'm learning that the two aren't the same. Some of the most important things move slowly. Some of the most urgent feeling things are actually just distractions. Real love isn't urgent. It's not about rushing into commitment or making big declarations or moving in together after 3 months, because you can't stand to be apart. Real love is about showing up consistently over time. It's about choosing someone not in the rush of new relationship energy, but in the steady, quiet choice to keep choosing them, day after day, year after year. I want to do that with you, not because it feels exciting right now, but because I believe it will still feel worth it 10 years from now, 50 years from now, when the newness has worn off and we're left with just the everyday reality of building a life together. That's the kind of love that lasts. That's the kind of love that's worth waiting for. Here's what I'm asking from you. I'm asking you to be patient too. Patient with me as I learn how to be present. Patient with me as I unlearn the patterns that have kept me isolated. Patient with me as I practice vulnerability and maybe get it wrong sometimes. Patient with me as I figure out how to love you in ways that actually matter. Because this is also about timing. This is about both of us being ready at the same time. Both of us being willing to show up at the same time. Both of us being committed to the waiting at the same time. The worst thing that can happen in a relationship is when one person is ready and the other isn't. When one person wants to move forward and the other wants to hold back. When the timing is off and you both feel it, but you can't quite figure out how to get on the same page. So I'm asking, help me know where you are. Help me understand what you need from me. Help me know if I'm moving too fast or too slow. Help me understand the cadence of your heart so I can meet you there. Because patience isn't about sitting still. It's about moving at the right speed. And the right speed is the speed at which both people can actually keep up. The speed at which both people can actually feel seen and heard and chosen. That's what I want. Not speed, not urgency, just the right pace, just the right timing, just you and me, learning how to move together. I used to think that love meant finding someone who wanted the same things I wanted, someone whose goals aligned with mine, someone who could be a partner in the practical sense. We'd both work toward our respective dreams, and somehow that would constitute a shared life. But I'm learning that shared purpose isn't about having the same job or the same ambitions. It's about having the same fundamental commitment to something larger than yourselves. It's about looking at each other and saying, I don't just want to build a life. I want to build a life that matters. I want to build something with you that means something. This is different from compromise. This isn't about meeting halfway on what we want. This is about discovering that what we want at the deepest level is compatible, that we're both oriented towards something true, that we both care about something beyond ourselves. I think about what happens when two people don't have this. They can be in love, they can have chemistry, they can have all the right logistics, they like the same movies, they want to live in the same city, they have similar financial values. But without shared purpose, the relationship eventually becomes hollow. It becomes about managing logistics instead of building meaning. I've seen this. I've felt this. The emptiness of being with someone just because you like them, instead of being with someone because you're both committed to building something real together. So when I think about you, about the woman I'm writing this for, I'm not just thinking about whether we'd be compatible. I'm thinking about whether we'd be collaborators, whether we'd be able to build something together that's bigger than both of us. Here's what I mean. I want to be with someone who cares about making a difference, not in a performative way, not in a way that looks good on Instagram, but in a real way, in a way that requires vulnerability and risk, and the willingness to be uncomfortable. I want to be with someone who's willing to ask the hard questions, who's willing to challenge me, who's willing to say, I think you're capable of more. Or sometimes, I think you're pushing too hard and forgetting why this matters. I want to be with someone who has her own purpose, her own mission, her own thing that makes her come alive. Because a relationship where one person is the purpose and the other is just along for the ride, that's not love. That's codependency. That's two people who've decided to make each other responsible for their happiness instead of being responsible for it themselves. Real partnership is two whole people choosing to build something together. Not because they need each other to feel complete, but because they're more capable of creating meaning when they're working together than when they're working alone. I'm learning this slowly. I'm learning it by watching couples who actually have it. The ones who've been together for decades and still seem excited about what they're building. Not excited about each other in that new relationship energy way, but excited about the life they're creating. Excited about the impact they're having. Excited about the way they're becoming better versions of themselves because of their commitment to something larger than themselves. There's a specific kind of intimacy that comes from this. It's the intimacy of working towards something together, of staying up late talking about ideas, of supporting each other through the hard parts, of celebrating wins together, not because they're your wins, but because they're our wins, of knowing that you're part of something meaningful because you're part of a team that's committed to meaning. I want that. I want to be part of something with you. Not just a romantic partnership, but a creative partnership, a mission partnership. We're going to figure out how to do this together kind of partnership. And here's what makes me nervous about this. It requires vulnerability in a different way. It's not just about being emotionally open. It's about being willing to fail together. It's about building something and having it not work out. It's about risking not just your heart, but your reputation and your time and your effort on something that might not succeed. Most people aren't willing to do this. Most people want the safety of keeping their personal life and their professional life separate. Keep your relationships small and private. Keep your ambitions isolated. That way, if one fails, at least the other is still intact. But I don't want that. I want to be all in. I want to be with someone where the lines blur, where my mission becomes our mission, where your dreams become something I'm invested in, where we're both willing to take the risk of building something together. This is a particular kind of courage. It's the courage to say, I'm not just choosing you romantically. I'm choosing you as a collaborator. I'm choosing you as someone I want to build meaning with. And I'm willing to risk everything on that. It's asking a lot. I know it is. But I also know that this is the only kind of love that's actually worth having. The only kind that survives the test of time. The only kind that builds something real. So here's what I'm asking. I'm asking you to have a bigger vision than just us. I'm asking you to have a purpose that matters to you. I'm asking you to bring that to the relationship and trust that I'll meet you there. I'm asking you to build something with me that's bigger than both of us. And I'm committing to doing the same. I'm committing to not making you my purpose. I'm committing to having my own purpose and inviting you into it. I'm committing to supporting your purpose even when it challenges me or changes the plan or requires me to sacrifice something I thought I wanted. This is what partnership actually looks like. Not two people who've merged into one, but two people who've stayed whole and independent and then chosen to build something together precisely because they're whole and independent. I think about what this looks like practically. It looks like I'm working on this thing, you're working on that thing. And sometimes our things intersect and we work on them together, and sometimes they don't intersect and we support each other from parallel positions. And sometimes one of us has to step back a bit to support the other through a hard season. But it's always clear that we're both committed to building lives that matter, not just to us, but to the world. There's a specific kind of respect that comes from this. It's not just admiring someone. It's respecting someone's commitment to something beyond yourself. It's seeing someone choose integrity over comfort and knowing they'd make that choice even if you weren't there to support them. It's knowing that they're with you not because they need you, but because they choose you. Because choosing you makes sense within their larger vision of what their life is supposed to be about. I want to earn that kind of respect from you. I want you to look at me and think, he's choosing to be with me in a way that's consistent with his larger purpose. He's not using me as an escape from his real life. He's inviting me into his real life. And I want to feel that from you too. I want to know that you're choosing me not out of desperation or fear of being alone, but out of a genuine belief that we can build something meaningful together. This is the foundation of a love that lasts. Not romance, not chemistry, not even compatibility, but a shared commitment to building something real. A shared belief that we're capable of creating meaning together. A shared willingness to take the risk that comes with that kind of commitment. And here's the beautiful part. When you have this with someone, everything else becomes easier. The hard conversations aren't about whether you're compatible. They're about how to work together more effectively. The challenges aren't about whether you should be together. They're about how to solve this particular problem as a team. The doubts aren't about the relationship itself. They're about whether you're making the right strategic choices within the relationship. It's a completely different frame, and it's so much healthier, so much more resilient, so much more capable of surviving the actual challenges that come with a long-term partnership. So I'm asking you, what do you want to build? What's the legacy you want to leave? What's the impact you want to have? And would you be willing to build that with me? Would you be willing to let me be part of your vision? Would you be willing to let your vision be part of what we create together? Because that's when love becomes something bigger than just love. It becomes a movement. It becomes a mission. It becomes a shared commitment to creating something that matters. That's the kind of love I'm ready for. That's the kind of partnership I'm looking for. That's the kind of life I want to build. Not just with someone, but with you. Here's what I used to believe of them losing yourself a little bit. It meant compromising who you were to make room for someone else. It meant sacrificing your independence for the sake of the relationship. I thought the goal was to become so intertwined with another person that you couldn't tell where one ended and the other began. I was wrong about that. I'm learning that the healthiest relationships aren't built on fusion. They're built on two independent people who've chosen interdependence. There's a difference. Fusion is losing yourself. Interdependence is staying whole while also choosing to be deeply connected. This distinction matters because I think a lot of people confuse love with enmeshment. They think that if they really love someone, they should want the same things, think the same way, have the same opinions. They should be available all the time. They should make their partner the center of their universe. They should sacrifice their own needs for the relationship. But that's not love. That's fear. That's the fear of abandonment masquerading as devotion. That's insecurity dressed up as commitment. Real love is different. Real love is two people who are both committed to becoming their best selves. Two people who have their own lives, their own friends, their own interests, their own opinions. Two people who come together not because they're incomplete without each other, but because they're better together. I'm practicing this now. I'm learning how to be independent and interdependent at the same time. I'm learning how to have my own purpose while also being invested in your purpose. I'm learning how to maintain my own identity while also building an identity with you. This is actually harder than it sounds, because our culture tells us that real love looks like merging. It tells us that the goal is to become a unit, that you should do everything together, that you should want the same things, that having separate interests or separate friend groups means you're not truly committed. But I'm learning that's not true. The strongest relationships I know are the ones where both people have maintained their sense of self, where they have their own things going on, where they can be apart and miss each other, and come back together with stories to tell and new things to share. There's a specific kind of freedom in this. It's the freedom to be yourself completely. It's the freedom to know that you're not responsible for your partner's happiness. It's the freedom to pursue your own goals without feeling guilty for not including your partner in every aspect of your life. And here's the paradox. When both people have this kind of freedom, the relationship actually becomes stronger, not weaker, because you're choosing to be together, not out of dependency, but out of genuine preference. You're showing up because you want to, not because you have to. You're investing in the relationship because it matters to you, not because you've lost the ability to imagine your life without it. I think about what this looks like practically. It looks like I have my work, I have my friends, I have my hobbies and my interests, and my own life. You have yours, and then we have our shared life. And those aren't in competition. Those are three separate ecosystems that all coexist. It looks like I can go away for a weekend with my friends without you, and I don't feel guilty. You can pursue your passion project even if it takes time away from us, and I support that. We can have our own opinions about politics or religion or how to spend money, and we don't need to agree. It looks like I miss you when we're apart, but I don't fall apart. I'm glad to see you when we're together, but I don't need you to complete me. I love you, but I don't need you to validate my worth. This is the kind of love that lasts. This is the kind of love that doesn't require constant reassurance or constant presence. This is the kind of love that's secure enough to let the other person be fully themselves. And here's what makes this possible: boundaries. Clear, healthy boundaries. Not walls, not coldness, but clear lines about what's yours and what's mine and what's ours. I'm learning how to set boundaries. I'm learning how to say no without feeling like I'm rejecting you. I'm learning how to protect my own energy and my own time without making you feel like I don't care about you. I'm learning how to be honest about what I need without making it your responsibility to meet that need. This is difficult because I grew up in an environment where boundaries were confused with selfishness, where taking care of yourself was seen as abandonment, where the goal was to merge as much as possible, lose yourself in the other person, make them the center of your world. But I'm unlearning that. I'm learning that boundaries are actually an act of love, because they allow me to show up as my best self. They allow me to be fully present without resentment. They allow me to choose you freely, again and again, instead of feeling obligated. So here's what I'm asking from you. I'm asking you to be independent. I'm asking you to have your own life. I'm asking you to pursue your own goals and have your own friends and maintain your own sense of self. I'm asking you to not need me to be complete, while also being willing to choose me anyway. And I'm asking you to let me do the same. I'm asking you to be okay with me having my own space, my own interests, my own time, with my own friends. I'm asking you to not interpret that as rejection. I'm asking you to see that I'm a more present, more engaged, more whole version of myself when I'm able to be independent. Because that's the paradox. We're most capable of true intimacy when we're also maintaining independence. We're most able to be vulnerable when we're also secure in ourselves. We're most able to choose each other when we're also choosing ourselves. This is what I mean by interdependence. It's not fusion. It's not merging. It's two separate people who've chosen to build something together while also maintaining their integrity as individuals. And here's what's beautiful about this. It creates a relationship that's actually sustainable. Because you're not asking the other person to be your everything. You're not asking them to make you happy or complete you or validate your worth. You're just asking them to be present, to be honest, to keep choosing you. And that's something someone can actually do. That's something that doesn't require constant performance or constant reassurance. That's something that can survive the real world with all its complications and challenges and changes. I want to build that with you. I want to be with someone who's fully alive in her own right, someone who has her own passions and her own purpose and her own sense of who she is, someone who chooses to be with me, not because she needs me, but because she wants to. Because we make sense together. Because we're building something that's better together than we could build separately. That's the kind of partnership I'm looking for. That's the kind of love I'm ready to give. Independence and interdependence, woven together in a way that creates space for both of us to be fully ourselves while also being fully committed to each other. I used to think that real love meant avoiding conflict, that if we truly loved each other, we'd agree on everything, that disagreements were a sign something was wrong, that struggle meant failure. I was so wrong about this. I'm learning that the relationships that actually last aren't the ones without struggle. They're the ones where both people are willing to struggle together. Where conflict isn't seen as a threat to the relationship, but as an opportunity to deepen it. Where both people show up even when things are hard, especially when things are hard. Think about what struggle actually does. It reveals character. It shows you who someone is when the stakes are high. It shows you whether they run or stay, whether they fight dirty or fight fair, whether they're willing to be vulnerable in the midst of disagreement, or whether they retreat into defensiveness. Real intimacy isn't built in the easy moments. It's built in the moments when you're frustrated with each other, and you choose to have the conversation anyway. It's built in the moments when you're scared and hurt, and you reach for each other instead of away. It's built in the moments when you could leave, and you choose to stay. What people who seemed perfect for each other fall apart the first time things got difficult. And I've watched people who seemed mismatched build something incredibly strong precisely because they were willing to struggle together. The difference wasn't compatibility, it was commitment. It was the willingness to not give up when things got hard. Here's what I'm learning about struggle. It's not the enemy of love. Avoidance is the enemy of love. Silence is the enemy of love. Pretending everything is fine when it's not. That's the enemy of love. But actual, honest struggle, that's where love gets real. I think about the couples I know who have been together for decades. The ones who seem to genuinely like each other, not just tolerate each other. And I notice something, they've all been through stuff. They've all faced challenges. Some of them have faced financial hardship. Some have faced health crises. Some have faced the death of dreams. Some have just faced the hard work of learning how to be in relationship with another human being. And they're still here. Not because they never struggled, but because they struggled together. Because they looked at each other in the midst of the struggle and said, okay, we're in this together. Let's figure it out. That's the covenant I want to make with you. Not I promise we'll never have problems. Because that would be a lie. We will have problems. We will have disagreements. We will have moments where we frustrate each other or hurt each other or disappoint each other. But I'm promising, I will show up. I will have the hard conversation. I will try to understand your perspective even when I disagree with it. I will be willing to be wrong. I will be willing to change my mind. I will fight for the relationship, not against you. And I'm asking you to do the same. This is actually what commitment means. Not the absence of struggle, but the presence of commitment in the midst of struggle. It's the willingness to work through things instead of walking away when things get hard. It's the belief that the relationship is worth fighting for. I think we've been sold a false narrative about love. We've been told that real love means never having to say you're sorry. That real love means you just know what the other person needs. That real love means there's no conflict. But that's not real love. That's fantasy. That's the Disneyland version of love. Real love is messier. Real love is having to say you're sorry. Real love is not knowing what the other person needs and having to ask. Real love is conflict and working through it anyway. Real love is choosing to stay even when you could leave. And here's the thing. That version of love is actually stronger. It's more resilient. It's more capable of lasting. Because it's not based on the illusion that everything will always be easy. It's based on the reality that things will be hard sometimes. And we're committed to handling the hard together. I'm learning how to do this. I'm learning how to have difficult conversations without getting defensive. I'm learning how to listen to criticism without taking it as rejection. I'm learning how to admit when I'm wrong. I'm learning how to apologize when I've hurt someone. I'm learning how to sit with uncomfortable feelings instead of running away from them. These are the skills that actually matter in a long-term relationship. Not the romantic gestures, not the grand declarations, but the daily willingness to show up authentically and work through the inevitable friction that comes with two people trying to build a life together. I think about what happens when people don't have this skill. They have one conflict and they panic. They think it means something is wrong with the relationship. They think maybe they chose the wrong person. They think maybe they should just end it and find someone who doesn't challenge them. But what they're actually doing is avoiding the opportunity to build something real. Because here's what I know. Now, you don't really know someone until you've struggled with them. You don't really trust someone until they've proven they'll stay when things get hard. You don't really love someone until you've loved them through difficulty. So I'm grateful for the struggles that are coming. I'm grateful for the disagreements and the misunderstandings and the hard conversations, because those are the moments when I'm going to get to know who you really are. Those are the moments when I'm going to get to prove who I really am. Those are the moments when something real gets built. And here's what I want you to know. I'm not going anywhere. When things get hard, I'm not going to disappear. I'm not going to go silent. I'm not going to act like it's your fault for being too much or too needy or too complicated. I'm going to show up. I'm going to have the conversation. I'm going to do the work. Because that's what love actually looks like when the cameras are off and the romantic phase is over. It looks like two people who keep choosing each other, who keep communicating, who keep trying, who keep believing that the relationship is worth the effort. I want that with you. I want to know you through struggle. I want to see how you handle adversity. I want to see whether you're someone who runs or someone who stays. I want to see whether you're someone who blames or someone who takes responsibility. I want to see all of that. And I want to show you all of that about me too. I want you to see me at my worst. I want you to see me when I'm scared and defensive. I want you to see me when I've failed and disappointed you. And I want you to stay anyway, because that's when I'll know it's real. This is the depth I'm talking about. This is the intimacy that actually lasts. Not the surface level we have so much in common kind of intimacy, but the deep, tested, proven kind that says, I've seen who you are in your struggle, and I'm still here. That's the kind of love I'm ready for. That's the kind of partner I'm looking for. Someone who's not afraid of struggle. Someone who sees struggle as an opportunity to deepen the connection instead of a reason to leave. Someone who's willing to fight for the relationship, not against me. If that's you, then I'm ready. I'm ready for whatever comes. I'm ready to build something that's tested and proven and real. I'm going to circle back to where we started. Remember I said that love is a mirror? That intimacy is built on two people who actually see each other? I'm learning what that really means now. A mirror doesn't judge what it reflects. It doesn't say, I'd like you better if you look different. It just shows you what's there. And in being truly seen, without judgment, without correction, without the demand to be different, something shifts. You become more real, more yourself, more capable of growth, because you're not spending all your energy hiding or performing. That's what I want to be for you. Not a judge, not a fixer, not someone who's trying to make you into a better version, just someone who sees you, really sees you. The complicated, contradictory, still becoming version of you, and then looks at you and says, yes, that version. That's the one I want to know. And I'm asking you to be that for me too. Here's what happens when two people agree to be mirrors for each other. They both become more fully themselves, not in a selfish way, but in a way that's actually more generous. Because you're not wasting energy on pretense. You're not managing an image. You're actually present. You're actually available. You're actually capable of seeing and loving the other person because you're not too busy protecting yourself. This is the foundation everything else has been building toward. All of those chapters, the vulnerability, the presence, the curiosity, the patience, the shared purpose, the independence, the willingness to struggle, they all lead here. They all lead to this moment where two people agree to really see each other and keep choosing each other anyway. I think about what the world needs right now. We're living in a time of unprecedented disconnection. We have more ways to communicate than ever before, and we're lonelier than ever. We have access to more information than ever, and we understand each other less. We're performing constantly for invisible audiences, and we're losing the ability to just be. This is a crisis, and I think the answer isn't more technology or more productivity or more achievement. The answer is real connection, real presence, real people willing to see each other and be seen. That's what I want to build with you. Not just a relationship, but a resistance to the disconnection. A statement that we're going to do this differently. We're going to be present. We're going to be honest. We're going to see each other. We're going to build something real in a world that's increasingly fake. And here's what's radical about that. It's an act of love, but it's also an act of courage. Because being real is risky. Being seen is risky. Choosing presence over performance is risky. But it's the only way anything real gets built. I've spent a lot of this letter talking about what I'm learning, about how I'm changing, about how I'm becoming a different kind of man. One who's willing to be vulnerable, present, curious, patient. One who understands that love is the engine, not the detour. But I want to be clear about something. I'm not doing this to impress you. I'm not doing this as a performance. I'm doing this because I've realized that this is who I actually want to be. This is the kind of man I actually want to become. And if you're willing to be here for that becoming, then we get to build something together. That's the real invitation. Not be with me because I'm perfect, but be with me while we both become more ourselves. Be with me while we both figure out what it means to love someone. Be with me while we both learn how to be present in a world that's designed to keep us distracted. I think about what dawn actually is. It's not light suddenly appearing. It's light gradually emerging. It's the world slowly becoming visible. It's the moment when you can finally see the landscape clearly. When the danger and confusion of the night starts to lift. That's what I want with you. I want the dawn. I want the slow emergence of understanding. I want the gradual becoming of trust. I want the moment where we can finally see each other clearly. Not in the darkness of assumption or fear, but in the clear light of presence. And I want to stay awake for it. I want to not sleep through the best parts. I want to be fully present for the slow unfolding of connection. I want to notice each moment where we move closer. I want to see each moment where you let me in a little bit deeper. This is what I'm committing to. Not perfection, not always getting it right, not never making mistakes, but presence, honesty, the willingness to keep showing up, the willingness to keep choosing you, the willingness to build something real, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. I'm writing this now because I want to make this commitment before I even know who you are. I want to make it public. I want to say out loud, this is what I believe now. This is what I'm committed to. This is the kind of man I'm choosing to be. And if you're willing to meet me here, in this space of honesty and vulnerability and presence, then we can build something that actually lasts. I'm not promising you forever. I can't promise that. No one can. What I can promise is, I will show up now. I will be present now. I will choose you now, and then I'll wake up tomorrow and make that same choice again, and the day after that, and the day after that. That's all any of us can really promise. Not forever, but now. Again and again, now. If you're listening to this, if you're reading this, I want you to know you're not alone. I'm here. Maybe not physically, maybe not yet, but spiritually, emotionally, intellectually, I'm here. I'm thinking about you. I'm preparing for you. I'm becoming the kind of man who's capable of loving you the way you deserve to be loved. I'm learning how to see. I'm learning how to be present. I'm learning how to be honest. I'm learning how to stay. I'm learning how to love in a way that matters. And I'm ready. I'm ready to meet you. I'm ready to know you. I'm ready to build something with you that's real and lasting and true. I'm ready for the mirror. I'm ready for the dawn. I'm ready for you. So here's my final word, the thing I want you to hold on to. You matter. Not what you've accomplished, not what you look like, not what you can do for me or for anyone else. You matter. Your inner life matters. Your doubts and fears and dreams matter. The specific, particular version of you that exists right now, that matters. And I'm committed to seeing that, to honoring that, to building a life where that kind of mattering is the foundation of everything. This is what I wrote this for. This is what I'm telling you now. I wrote this for the woman who'll be my wife. And whether that's you or someone else, whether that's now or years from now, I want her to know. I'm ready. I'm here. I'm willing. And I'm committed to seeing you, really seeing you, for the rest of our lives. That's the promise. That's the invitation. That's the love I'm ready to give. Will you have it?